Oh, hello there. You must be here because you're interested in learning how to make and edit videos. Well, you're in luck because you've come to the right place. Follow me. I'll take you to my secret video editing lab and show you the basics. Come on, let's go. Oh, hello there. I was actually just making a video about how to make videos. In it, I was going to introduce my viewers to the suite of tools and software programs that I use to import, edit, and compile audio and video files into cohesive projects. I was also going to discuss a little bit of how to animate and add special effects to really add embellishment to your videos. Here, let me show you. To get started making videos, you'll first need to download the suite of software tools that you need. The great thing about being a University of Maryland student is that all of the software is free for you to download and use as long as you're a student. To access the software and download it, visit the website terpware.umd.edu. This website has all sorts of software programs that you can download. For our purposes and for video editing, we're going to use the Adobe Creative Cloud suite of tools and softwares. Specifically, we're going to use Adobe Premiere Pro, but this software also provides you access to things like Photoshop and Illustrator, which you may use to make graphics for your videos. By clicking on the Creative Cloud apps for Student, you can start your download and download everything that you need. After you've downloaded the software and set everything up, we'll open up Adobe Premiere Pro and I'll show you how to get started making a video file. When you open Premiere Pro, you'll see the following screen. What you'll want to click on is the New Project button. I'll create a file that's called ENEAS100 Tutorial. And I must choose a spot for that file. So I'll click Location and I'll click the Browse button. And I will choose this folder that I've made called Tutorial Clips. So I'll select that folder and click OK. And this will now create my project that I can come back to and edit at any time. When you open Adobe Premiere Pro, you'll see that you've got several different windows that are going to be of use to you as you import, edit, and compile your video clips. In the top left, this is where you'll be able to add effects to all of your videos. So you'll see things like effects, effects controls, and there's some other things that you can put up there as well. I'll come back to that later. In the top right, this is where you'll actually see the video feed of the files that you're assembling. So this will be a good place for you to kind of see what the output file will look like. It's a preview window. In the bottom left, this is what you'll use to import your files and where you'll be able to then move them over to the bottom right panel, which is called the timeline. This is where you'll be able to clip, stitch together, shorten, edit the audio, add special effects, and that's kind of where all of that stuff will be taking place. So really, to start things off, the first thing we need to do here is import some files. So I'll go over to the bottom left window pane, and you'll see that we have this space called Import Media to start. I will right-click there and click New Bin. The bin just is named Bin to start, but I'll change that to say Tutorial Clips. Now, a good thing about making bins is it helps you organize your workflow. You might have a bin full of pictures and graphics that you're going to overlay on top of your video. And you may want to sequence your video so that you've got some files in particular bins. That way, instead of having hundreds of video files possibly, all in one space where it's hard to see them, you may want to actually just create bins for each specific spot. So it's easier to edit and mess around with your videos as you work on your project. So I will now double click the Tutorial Clips bin. And what this does is brings up a window where I will be able to import the video clips that I want to work with. I will right click in the blank space, I will click the Import button, and this will bring me to a folder that I've already created called Tutorial Clips. So I will click and select all of these videos here and click the Open button. This has now brought all of the video files that I want to work with for this project into Adobe Premiere Pro. Now, the next most obvious thing you might want to do sometimes is reorganize these. So if you actually look down here at the bottom, you'll see this button called Sort Icons. You can choose all sorts of different things for this. Typically, I like to click Name, because your camera usually will order things in a numbered system. So this will say, I have Panasonic 4521 followed by all of the other clips. So this gives me a good idea of the workflow that I'll use. So for this project, let's get started and show you how the timeline works. What I'll do is I'll click the first file in the top left, and I will drag that into the bottom right panel in the empty space. When I do that, what you see happens is that that file now is showing in the top right preview section. Another good thing to notice is this thing called the timeline. Here you can see that it's in intervals of seconds, and this video file is roughly 13 seconds long. If you take the cursor and you drag this blue line here, you can play the video file forward and backward. And you can also click this play button here to see what the file would actually look like for you when you're playing it. Here it's just a video of the administration building with some cars going by and a nice sun up in the top corner. You click the stop button, and by clicking left and right on the cursor keys, you can also move back very slow, frame by frame, through your video file. So now that you've got your video file in the timeline, you're probably going to want to edit and add other video files there. So there's 3 buttons that you really need to know and get familiar with in Adobe Premiere Pro. The first thing that you might want to do is zoom in and out of the timeline so you can see more of your project or zoom into a particular segment that you might want to edit. To do this, you click the Z button on your keyboard. When you press the Z button, what you'll see happen is that your cursor changed from a cursor into a little magnifying glass. By then clicking your mouse, you can see that the video file grows larger because we're now looking more closely at that file. And you can see that the timeline, which was initially 0 to 13 seconds, is now 0 to 2.15 seconds. If you want to zoom out, you hold the Z button down and click the minus button. And you can see when I do that, that the video file shrinks in size. So let's zoom back in, make it a little bit larger, and let's say that I wanted to trim this particular video file. To do that, you will use the C button on your keyboard. So by pressing the C button, you will see that your cursor now changes to a little razor so that you can cut through the video file. So for example, maybe I wanted to cut off the beginning few seconds and the last few seconds as I was maybe shaking the camera in those particular spots. So now I've got 3 particular segments of video file. And how do I get rid of them? Well, the third and very important key on your keyboard you next need to learn about is the letter V. This allows you to select video files as well as audio files, pictures, and other things that you put into the timeline. So what you'll do is click V, and you'll see that the cut little razor goes away and you've got back to a mouse cursor. Now I can click the first video file that I have in my timeline and click delete. And I can click the final one and also click delete. I can now drag and move this video file around, move it to the beginning, move it farther away, and this allows you the flexibility to add multiple files, trim them, and put them together in the order in which you'd like. Now that you've learned a little bit about the basics of trimming a video file and moving it around, there's one other important thing you might need to know, which is linking and unlinking the audio and the video file. As you can see, as I move the file back and forth, both the video and the audio move together. There's sometimes you have video clips where you don't care about the audio at all, so you might just want to remove that altogether. By right-clicking the video file, you can see that right beneath the Enable button, you'll see a link to unlink those files. By clicking Unlink, now you can see that I can move the video file separately from moving the audio file. Now you can always undo this by selecting both video files and clicking Link. Now they will actually move together in that offset fashion. But that may be useful for you to remove the audio from the video file. So let's just click Ctrl Z a few times, undo that, and now we should have a complete file that we can move back and forth. One other thing that's useful is that you can click these lines right here to expand the video and the audio so that it's more easily readable, or that you can see the waveform of the audio. If you look now, when I've done that with the audio, I can drag this little line up, and you can see that the decibels, dB, go either really low or really high. That's another useful way to be able to diminish the role that the audio plays in your video project. So I can drag this down and make it quieter so that maybe there's a little bit of background noise for ambiance, but we don't actually need any of the sound. Now I'll show you how to add text over top of your video files. Perhaps if you want to have a title or some text to explain what's going on. To do this, click T on your keyboard and hover over the preview up in the top right corner. You'll see a little cursor comes up. If you click and drag this cursor, this will create your text box, which you can see shown in red. Now I can type something in. So let's say, for example, that I want to name this video file ENEAS100. I click the Enter button to move to the second line, Tutorial. To exit editing the text, you want to click the Escape button and then the V button. Now you can see that the video has a blue box over it, and this will allow you to move your text around the screen wherever you'd like, and to even shrink this box as well. So let's say I want this to be over in the bottom right corner. I can click the preview, and there I go. But now that I've got that text there, how do I change the look of that text? Well, what we actually need to do is go up to this thing in the top that's called Window. And by clicking Window, this allows me to bring up all sorts of other different panels to edit the video. What I want to do is click Essential Graphics. And by doing that, what this will show me is a way to edit the text. So if I go down here in the timeline and click the text, I can then go up to Edit. What we can now see is that I've got a text that's called ENEAS100 Tutorial. So if I click that, this brings up the way to actually edit that text. Now this is a little tricky because I haven't selected any of the text. So when I click this up in the top right, this says, oh, I want to edit the text. But now I can actually double click in the text and select it. And by doing that, this segment down here in the bottom is really where you'd want to go to actually change the font, the color, or the size. So you can see if I change this 100, the text gets really, really large, which in this case is not particularly helpful. So I'll shrink that back down, not to 1, but a value of 100. So you can type in these values as well, which is really nice. And down here I can also bold the text. If I wanted to make the text blue, I would click Fill, and I would click one of the colors of blue, and click OK. For some reason that didn't work. Oh, there we go. I click blue and actually click inside of the screen right there. Click OK. Now I have blue text. If I want to add a border around that text, I would put a check mark in the stroke button and increase this. And right now the text becomes surrounded with white. So this allows you to really put your own personal touch on your text files that you overlay on top of your video. Now one last thing that'll be important to know here is if I click the Escape and V button once again to get out of the editing of the text, I can now drag this text around, and let's say that I've changed my mind and I want it in the top left corner. Now if I show the timeline, you can see that the text doesn't appear until about 0.15 seconds into the video. So I can move the text to appear at a later time, so that now at about 2.5 seconds, the text will appear. And it'll last until about 7 seconds. If you click the file, you can increase or decrease the duration of your text. So if you just want the text to last for a second and then to disappear, that's how you do that. One other thing you might need to do is you might be interested in fading in your text or animating it in some way. So to do that, you'd click Effects. You could click Cross Zoom, for example. You drag that onto the front of the video of the text. And what you can see happens now is instead of the text just appearing, it will now come off of a part of the screen and zoom in. And if I click something like cross dissolve and I put that at the end, instead of the text just simply disappearing, the text will slowly fade away. So I've created a custom bin, which you see over there, filled with some of the most common effects that I use, but this would all be found in what's called the video transitions effects. And you can do this both for your video and for the text files that you might have. Another thing you may be interested in doing is speeding up or slowing down your video clips. I've put 2 videos in the timeline that will experiment with doing that right now. So the first video you can see, if I click the play button, is just a very simple video of me walking by the camera. Maybe that's too slow for me, so I want to speed it up to make it look like I'm moving much faster. The way that I would do that would be to right-click the video file in the timeline, and sometimes the right-click doesn't quite work, but that's why when you expand the video file, it'll become more clear to Adobe Premiere Pro that when you're right-clicking in the middle of that larger file, it brings up this giant list of things. So what I can do is I can click the speed and duration button. When I do that, it is reporting at what percentage of the original speed the file is being played at. So right now it's at 100% original speed, so it's the same speed. If I change this to 200%, what you'll see is that the video file has now gotten smaller and it's now going to be played faster. So to not mess with the audio, I'm going to drag down the audio file so that it's not going to hurt our ears with a higher pitch. And I'll move back to the beginning of the video clip and click the space bar, which is another way to play the preview file. When I do that now, you see that it looks like I'm moving faster through the video. If I right-click here and I make it, let's say, 400%, and go back and play that again, you'll now see it looks like I move past the screen very, very quickly. So that's how you speed up a video file. On the other side of things, if we go over to this file right here, and I click play, what you see happen is that I jump and give a thumbs up. As I will right-click this file, and click speed duration, and I will click 20%. This is a little bit trickier because now this video file will grow larger indefinitely or until it hits another video file. But now when I click play, and I will again lower the sound so it doesn't disturb us, and click the space bar, what you can see is that this video file now is much slower than it originally was. This is a very useful tool to build suspense or to draw out an action in your video to make things more interesting or perhaps even more clear, especially if it's something that was moving very quickly to begin with. Now I'll show you how you can add pictures over top of your video to embellish your scenes and how you can animate those pictures to add a little bit of flair. So what I've got here right now in the timeline is a video of me standing in front of this brick wall. I gesture to something on my right side, and then I pretend to push it away off of the frame of the scene. So right now nothing is there, but what I'm going to do is import a picture of a sun. So it almost looks like I can do an energy blast. So if I overlay the picture of the sun to the top of this video, and I drag the blue cursor over top, you can see that the picture I've chosen is huge. So this is where we get into editing the effects of a particular video or picture file. Here what I'm going to do is go into what's called Effect Controls. I will click the sun photo, and this will bring up this little display of information here in the top left. What you can see is I have this scale button. I can drag the scale of this black sun forward or down to make it smaller or larger. So let's say I like it about this size right here. I'm also able to change the position by moving it to the left of the frame, the right of the frame, or moving it down and up. Now, something you can see here that's a little bit bothersome about this picture is that there's a black background. Now I actually selected this picture on purpose because what I can do is I can go to Effects and remove that black background. The way that I do that is you will go to what's called Video Effects, and you will go to Keying. If you scroll down in Keying, you will see this effect called ColorKey. You can select ColorKey and drag it and place it on top of the sun photo. Now that effect is there, but you have to effectively enable it in the video file. So now I'll go to Effect Controls, and what you'll see is I've got this effect called ColorKey. So what I can do is I can click this little blue thing right here, and right now it's keying for blue. What I'm going to do is click the eyedropper, drag that over, click black, and click OK. What you can see happens now is that a lot of the black in this file has now been removed, so that I almost only see the sun with this ring of black. This is where I can adjust how much black is removed using what's called color tolerance. So if I drag this color tolerance upwards, I can do that until eventually I'm left with essentially almost the sun. If I go too far, I fade almost everything away. But if I go back to, it looks like almost a value of 84, now it looks pretty good. So what I can do now is now I can actually place the sun in the frame where I want it to be placed. So maybe right here, and I'll make it a little bit smaller. Now when I click play, you can see that the mic in the video gestures, and now the sun is in the video. But now how do I make it look like I'm pushing the sun away in this particular spot? Well, if you look at the position, scale, and rotation spots in the top left corner, you'll see that there's this like little stopwatch icon. This will allow you to create movement in these particular photo right here. So what I can do is I can move through the timeline and see when I start to push the sun, which is about right here, I will go up and click the stopwatch on the position button. Now I'm not changing the scale here, but you can also change the scale based on the time. What you see is I've now added what's called a keyframe right here in the middle of this particular photo. Now what I can do is click left and right on the keyboard arrows at the bottom and move forward until I've basically pushed it as far as I do in the video. So I look, now I see I can start to be moving back to the right. So at this point what I'll now do is I will slide the position of the sun to be off the screen. So now what you'll see happen is if I move back and forth through the timeline, is now I am moving the sun forward and backward in this particular spot of the video. So now when I click play for everything, you should see a fairly interesting effect, which is I gesture, the sun appears, and then I push the sun off of the screen. So that is a very useful way to add like a little bit of creative flair to your videos. And especially for you, this may be very useful to incorporate thematic images or extra oomph to your presentations. Another thing you may want to do to enhance your videos is to add sound effects or music. In this case, I'm going to add the Beatles song, Here Comes the Sun, to make the scene a little bit funnier. So I've dragged and added the audio file into Audio 2, and I've expanded that box so I can see the waveform and see the audio more clearly. If I click play, what you'll see, and maybe hear as well, is the song. It's now playing. What you may want to do is fade in the audio, right? So what you can do is if you click by the front of the audio file and click right here, you'll see this little button down here. This will add a keyframe to your sound file. If I click a little bit farther ahead and I click the same button again, I've now got two spots in the audio file where I can move the volume up or down. So if I drag this one volume thing down, what you'll now see is that this video file will fade in over a period of time. And I can make it fade in over a longer period of time or make it a very short fade. But let's have it fade in fairly slowly so you can actually hear the effect and I'll click play, and you can listen to that right now. So there you go. That's how you can fade in and fade out audio files. The last part of this video is I'm going to show you how to use a software called the OBS Recording Studio to actually go online and record snippets of YouTube videos for the purposes of getting sound effects or possibly music. In addition to using Adobe Premiere Pro, I also use something called OBS Studio. This stands for Open Broadcast Software, and this allows you to record your screen, which allows you to record PowerPoint presentations, add your voice to them, and also add all these animations and other things that I'm referring to and have taught you earlier in the video. To download OBS Studio, it's a free software, open source. You can download it for Windows and open it up, and I'll show you what it looks like when you open it up. When you open OBS Studio, you'll see the following screen. Now right now I'm currently recording this screen, and what's interesting is you can actually see my voice bar down at the bottom. What you can also see is that you record the sound from the desktop and audio. Now, pretty much what matters down here are the sources. So what I'm doing right now is I'm capturing my display. And sometimes what happens is that the display is not set up quite right. So this allows you to move around what part of the screen you're capturing, and you can actually make a smaller capture of the screen, perhaps if you only want to capture the top left, for example, or you can drag and click this so that it actually allows you to capture the whole screen. So when you want to actually start recording something, you would click the Start Recording, and you would go to the source that you want to record. And that's what I've been using this whole time to record all of the files and sharing my screen in Adobe Premiere Pro and Terpware and other things. So by combining OBS Recording Studio to record your screen and also get audio files from the internet, you can really make your videos very fun and exciting. I wish you all the best of luck in your video editing, and I know that I and the rest of the teaching team are very excited to see what you've put together.